Well, it's about time I make my next video. Alright, well, how long has it been since I uploaded anyway? Oh, sorry about the wait, guys. Honestly, my circumstances got a little crazy, and my editing computer broke, just straight up. So I had to get that fixed, and now that I'm being able to sit down again, I have a little bit of extra time to make videos, I decided I wanted to go back to my roots. Yes, I still have a plan to make another SMT video for power scaling and its cosmology. Problem is I want to play more SMT games to really get a better grasp of all of its power scaling and its feats. Problem is that takes a lot of time to complete that many games. So for right now, it's for a future project, and I'll keep you guys updated on when that's going to get finished. But for now, I wanted to kind of make a sequel to a previous video I made. I think it was my first power scaling video on the channel for that matter, being the Chainsaw Devil versus Guts. I am a huge fan of Chainsaw Man and Berserk, so this battle is going to be between Skull Knight and Makima. I thought this matchup was pretty good. Initially, I thought the better matchup would have been Makima versus Griffith, but honestly, that fight is so one-sided that I didn't really feel like it made for a good YouTube video. If y'all want to see that video, you can comment it down below and I'll make it for you. But I thought Skull Knight versus Makima had a lot more nuance to it, so without further ado, I'm just going to jump straight into the matchup. A quick warning for those who are viewing this video. This video is going to have spoilers for parts 1 and 2 of Chainsaw Man, so if that bothers you, you should probably click away now. A lot of what Makima can do comes in later parts of the manga, and I have to use those for scaling. As well, I'm also going to be spoiling all of Berserk, so without further ado, let's get into it. Skull Knight is one of the strongest characters in the Berserk verse, only being short of the God Hand in terms of power. The easiest way to scale Skull Knight is by putting him above Nosferatu Zod, somebody who he's a rival with and beats on numerous occasions. Nosferatu Zod is one of the strongest apostles in the verse, and he's shown to be an equal to Berserk Armor Guts in their battle against Sheikah. This does a lot of good scaling for Skull Knight, as he basically just upscales some of the strongest characters. So for attack potency, we can easily get him over multiple city block level, as Mosgus' Fire Breath is calced to this level. And this was a human form Mosgus, who is inferior to Apostle Mosgus, who is an equal to Guts, who then trained, got the Berserk Armor, and then can activate the Berserk Armor. And then Skull Knight is above that Guts. So there's a lot of levels past this feat where Skull Knight's at. So while you can scale him and put multiple city block as his AP and durability level, you could argue he's several times greater than this at this point. So multiple city block plus, or if you want to stretch, small town level AP and durability. For speed for Skull Knight, there's a calc where Berserk Armor Guts basically dodges against Sheikah's lightning, and this gets up to Mach 98. Skull Knight should just be relative to this, if not greater. Keep in mind that Skull Knight's movement speed and attack speed are basically universal. During a scene during the Millennium Falcon arc, he's able to rush past the party so fast that Shirk can barely perceive his movements. This is impressive, as Shirk is able to perceive and comment on Guts' fight with Grimbeld, while Skull Knight's movement borderline has her being perception blitzed. So you can argue Skull Knight is significantly faster than Berserk Armor Guts. For abilities, Skull Knight has one really important ability, which is the Sword of Actuation. He covers his sword in Beherlith. How do you pronounce? You know what? I'm leaving that in. That's a hard word to say, guys. Let me have this one. Its ability is to be able to cleave through space, which gives Skull Knight a lot of versatility, such as being able to just teleport or even seal people within the astral realm. This is confirmed by himself and the guides to literally work on the God Hand. In a later chapter of Berserk, where we get a flashback to presumably the past of Skull Knight, we see that the previous member of the God Hand are very different from their current list, meaning there's a good chance that Skull Knight has actually managed to seal away 4 God Hand members throughout his life. Being able to entrap and entomb the God Hand like this is super impressive, as the God Hand can freely travel through the astral and physical planes, basically at will by using avatars and manifestations. The fact that Skull Knight might be able to seal them away gives him a massive tool for this matchup. Along with some other things, he also has the ability to interact with non-physical things, as he's able to cut through spirits, which have no physical form. Skull Knight seems to have a good perception of the spiritual and astral planes. This might give him some type of cosmic awareness of the things around him, as throughout the story he's able to divine or predict numerous things throughout the story, including Femto manifesting in the physical world briefly, which he tried to make use of. Skull Knight also sits in the Interns, which is a place between the astral and physical planes. This gives him a lot of Hack's resistance from the God Hand, who can't interact with him the same way that they can interact with a lot of other beings. I'll elaborate on this more later, but for now, let's get into Makima scaling. Makima, aka Conquest or the Control Devil, is one of the strongest and most feared devils in the Chainsaw Man verse, and rightfully so. She's honestly just kind of insane. For her physical AP, she was able to throw hands with Pochita using Denji's body. While this wasn't as strong as the Black Chainsaw Man form, she was still able to get the better of an encounter between them, even just straight up ripping his heart out after she was done with him. Denji as Chainsaw Man was able to tank the Bat Devil's Sonic Blast, which can get anywhere from 9.1 to 91 tons of TNT, which is large building level to city block level. Makima should just upscale from this, as the Bat Devil was kind of fodder and Denji beat it before his training and before a lot of his amps, and Makima just kind of slaps around a Pochita Denji who's should be way stronger. However, this is not where Makima's AP scaling ends, as her hand-to-hand is significantly weaker than her telekinesis attacks. Her telekinetic bursts are honestly just outright insane for scaling. For her telekinetic attacks, as well as some of her attacks that require prep time or other devil contracts, her AP can get a lot higher. We see that she's able to mortally wound the Gun Devil in one attack as it fleed into Aki Hayakawa's body in a near-death state. She's also able to significantly wound Chainsaw Man by launching him into space with telekinetic attacks. These telekinetic attacks are seen as super strong, as they're able to just one-shot most characters who aren't like the top tiers in the verse. She's even able to hurt the Darkness Devil, one of the 4 primal fears and the peak of power in this universe. So yeah, honestly, she's pretty strong with her telekinetic attacks. This should upscale her from the Gun Devil's movement feat, where by moving it generated this much kinetic energy. This is anywhere between 9 to 95 kilotons of TNT, which is around town level. If you want, you can actually get this higher by assuming she's stronger than the storm created by the Typhoon Devil as well, but ultimately it doesn't really matter. If you want to count that, you can just upscale her to small city level. As for speed, she should upscale Katana Man from part 2, who's able to do his draw slash at this speed right here, which is calced at Mach 81. However, much like her AP, her telekinetic speeds are significantly faster than her body speed, as being able to launch Pochita into space like this fast was calculated at Mach 4603. Though Makima's physical and combat characteristics pale in comparison to her ability list. She has a clairvoyant-like ability, as she's able to connect to the eyes and ears and senses of animals that she controls, like rats or birds, meaning she has a really good chance of being able to sense you and perceive where you are at all times. Her strongest and most well-known ability is the ability she has to control other beings. For as long as she perceives that being as lower than herself, she can gain control over it. In some cases, she can extend chains to make this control more direct and absolute. This control isn't absolute, however, as we've seen that there's beings and people like Kishibe who can sit outside of her realm of control. Another one of her most broken abilities comes from her devil contract with the Prime Minister of Japan. Every time she is attacked, damage, curses, and all sorts of negative impact effects are transferred to a Japanese citizen somewhere in the world. This essentially can be seen as a bunch of extra lives, and we see this in the fight with Chainsaw Man, as she's able to revive from getting decapitated and cut in half with seemingly no time at all. Given the fact that Chainsaw Man takes place in the 90s, we can estimate that the human population of Japan is roughly around 126 million people, which means Makima has around 126 million lives to burn through during this encounter. Yeah, that's a lot of regen, isn't it? Man, What is up with this verse and disgusting regen abilities? This is crazy. As I mentioned before, one of her most powerful abilities is her telekinetic bangs. She's able to point her finger at somebody and either attack them from the inside using some type of biological manipulation, or just straight up shoot them with a telekinesis gun, like launching them into space or giving you trauma. I would be amiss to not mention the other devil contracts that she has, as while you might say this comes as outside interference, given the fact that she sees people she controls as less than human and just as tools for her to use, I think it's perfectly safe to say that she can use them in this battle, such as all the weapons devils from Special Division 5, the Hell Devil, which we see she gets to use, the Curse Devil, which can inflict instant death, the Future Devil, which can see times in the future, and the Angel Devil, which has the ability to seep your life force and create weapons that can pierce through regenerative capabilities. I'm aware she can have more contracts than this, though I do feel like it's a bit of a stretch to say if she has these contracts or not, as she's never used them on screen. So before somebody mentions, oh, well, she is actually in control of the Cosmos Fiend, she's never shown to use it on screen a single time. So I can't really say if she has or doesn't have the Cosmos Fiend in her inventory. So for this battle, I'm going to assume she doesn't, as she's never shown the ability to before. But I know someone was going to mention it, so I thought I'd just clear that up right now. Without further ado, we should just get into the fight. Looking at base AP and base speed, right away, we see that the battle is kind of staggered. Skull Knight is faster than Makima by a decent bit, and he's also stronger than her in base by a decent bit. This is offset by the fact that her telekinesis both has insanely higher AP and higher speed than Skull Knight. Going over some key abilities in this matchup, I just wanted to go out of my way and say right away that Makima's control is not going to work. I don't think this is a stretch, and I don't even think it's arguable. Skull Knight is in the interns, and he can't be controlled or manipulated by the God Hand. Keep in mind that the God Hand in the Berserk verse are literally seen as authors of the verse, and every action, such as that causality itself, is in their control. Cause and effect are literally in the control of the God Hand, and Skull Knight can't be controlled by them. Their control is on a much deeper level than Makima has. While they control basically by nature, the God Hand don't even need to try at all. Makima's control is conditional, both by her own merit and the abilities person to resist its control. So I don't think there's any way that Skull Knight's going to be controlled by Makima in this matchup. I think it's really important to mention BFR in this matchup, as both characters have numerous ways to battlefield remove their respective enemy. Makima could try to blast Skull Knight into space, she could potentially try to send him into hell, and Skull Knight can try to seal her away within the astral realm. So, do these actually work? Well, yes and no depending on which one we're talking about. Sending Skull Knight into space could work, though I would argue if Skull Knight's getting hit with the telekinesis in the first place, I think he has a lot more to worry about with her AP, much more than he has to worry about just being launched into orbit. As for the Hell Devil, I don't really see the Hell Devil working. Clithoth was completely removed from the physical world in Berserk, as it's a part of the astral plane. Despite this, Guts and Skull Knight were able to leave using the Sword of Actuation, meaning this can close spaces that are completely separated from another. So I don't really see a reason for why Skull Knight just can't cut a space open in hell and then just walk back to the physical world, given the fact that he did something extremely similar in his own story. On the contrary, I don't think Makima is getting out of the astral plane if Skull Knight sends her there. You might say that she's able to get out using something like Princey's abilities as a spider, or maybe using the Hell Devil to send herself to hell from the astral plane, but honestly, Skull Knight's sealing is kind of ridiculous. We can assume that Skull Knight can actually seal the God Hand, as he's one of the most knowledgeable characters in the verse about them. So if he can actually seal them away, these are beings that can freely travel through realms all the time, creating avatars and the like. So if he's able to permanently seal them away and restrict their ability to use avatars, so if Makima actually gets hit by this, I'm pretty sure she's just stuck. There's nothing she can really do to get out of there. And at that point, the battle's just kind of over. My conclusions on this matchup are pretty straightforward. It really depends on how much of a threat Skull Knight perceives Makima as and what his weapons are when he first starts the battle. If Skull Knight is only using his base sword and tries to fight Makima in a kind of normal fashion as he does most apostles, he's probably going to end up losing for a couple reasons. He can chop her up and maybe outspeed her and, kill her. This is just not going to work though. As I said before, she has over 100 million lives to burn through, and there's no way he's going to go through all of those before she hits him with a telekinesis attack. Not to mention he also has to fight off all of the weapons hybrids and her other devils she controls, which sort of just adds more to the problems he's going to be dealing with. So if you think Skull Knight isn't going to fully take Makima seriously from the get-go, I'm going to say that Makima has an advantage here, though this advantage is turned completely on its head if Skull Knight has the Sword of Actuation drawn as the battle starts. The Sword of Actuation is just straight up broken. I'm not even going to try to sugarcoat this. He can open up massive black hole-like rifts to the astral plane that suck up everything nearby, meaning he can sort of just AoE clear all of the weapons hybrids immediately. You can also use this to teleport between the astral plane and the living world, giving him a means to protect or dodge Makima's attacks, and like I said before, Makima is not surviving getting sealed. I don't think Makima's ability to transfer her damage to another Japanese citizen is going to work for this battlefield removal either, as she wasn't able to regen from the Blood Chainsaw's effects on her body. So if you don't think that's the case, then I don't think she's going to be able to swap places with a Japanese citizen when she's basically disconnected from a reality that not even godlike beings can leave. So despite all of that, if Skull Knight starts with the Sword of Actuation, yeah, I kind of think he cleaves through most of Makima's forces pretty quickly. Even if Makima is able to adapt to it, there's kind of just too much in Skull Knight's favor with the portals. He could use them for so many different things, from defense to offense to just mobility. I think it's just way too much to assume that Makima would make a counterplan fast enough to deal with it before getting sealed. Well, that's another battle in the books. If you guys want to see another matchup, just put it in the comments below and I'll try to get to it. Like I said, I might not be able to make all of your video ideas, as I like to have a pretty solid grasp of a matchup and the series I'm talking about before I go into it, as I don't want to try to talk about a series I don't know a lot about. But as for the future, I'm looking forward to making more Chainsaw Man, Berserk, Nasuverse, Shin Megami Tensei, and Evangelion matchups, as they've basically been what I'm doing a lot of reading on. Thank you guys for watching this video, and if you liked this video, feel free to like and subscribe. I'll try to post more from now on and try to stick to more of a schedule. No promises though, my life seems to be a little crazy sometimes, but hopefully my computer won't break this time. Well, I'll catch you guys later, and I hope you guys have a nice day. Peace.